Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. I'm Emmanuel, I'm an Airbus pilot and welcome to our next flight in the Airbus A380. Today we're going to fly from Munich over to Bangkok, which is a real-life Lufthansa A380 service. We're looking at about 10 hours and 15 minutes flight time, but don't worry, we will speed up the cruise segment a little bit to make it less boring for you. So, let's go ahead and board our Airbus and we are going to start setting it up. Now you can see engineering has already prepared the aircraft for us, so it is already powered up and they have already done some basic stuff. Let's take a seat now in the captain's seat and we are going to start with our setup. Even though engineering has already done some work, we still got to do the entire procedures. So engine masters are off, the engine start switch is in the norm position. Then the landing gear lever is down, the wipers are off and the batteries are on, external power on. They have started the APU already, but they have not put it on the bleed yet, so let's go ahead and do that just now ourselves. Okay, perfect. So then we can move on and we will do a fire test, even though the APU is running already, because we never know if engineering did it or skipped it. So, IRS is going into the nav position, and then we can go ahead with our systems checks. So the oxygen quantity is looking good, the hydraulic quantity is looking good, and then we can check for our oil quantity. And that is the known bug with the aircraft, so nothing to worry about. Alright. Here we go. So, there is one more white light that's on over here. Ground HF data link is off. Yeah, that's fine with me. That's nothing to worry about. Alright, last but not least, the flaps match the lever. The speed brakes do as well. Park and brake off. Pressure checked. Then let's test the brake system. Manual brake pressure application works just fine, and park and brake is set on again. Perfect. So with that, our aircraft is accepted for flight. There are no OEBs, no MEL items, and the aircraft in general is in a good shape. Alright, so let's go down to our electronic flight bag and we are going to start our flight setup. Import the flight from SimBrief, please. Here we go. So, flight plan imported, and if we have a look at the plan itself, then we can check our weather charts. So that's what our general flight looks like. Going along the Balkans, over the Black Sea, Turkey, over the all the way over to Pakistan, and then southbound over India direct to Bangkok. The significant weather charts shows us that we generally have good tailwind conditions for the flight, but we are crossing a jet stream over here, which is located in level 390. So just after that right-hand turn over here, we can expect some turbulence, and thereafter a couple of thunderstorms in the general area, as it seems. But I'm not too worried about those. Let's go ahead and have a look at our individual airport forecast, and then we can still make a decision here. So here we go. Departure airport Munich, winds variable at 1 knot and overall looking good, and our destination Bangkok is showing us good weather all over. Even for the entire day tomorrow we are just looking at few clouds, so that's very good. So, for our alternates, we got Tapao as our primary alternate, which also has very good weather conditions, so there is no reason to take any extra fuel over here, if you ask me. Let's go ahead and have a look at the fuel section of our flight plan here. So by default, we take 114.8 plus 1,300 kilos taxi fuel. Let's increase that slightly, so looking at 115 plus 1.5, so 116.5. On a small note over here, you can see I've got a performance bias of -15 applied at the moment, which is a little bit on the conservative side there. In the fly-by-wire Discord, they recommended -17 to -20, but I just don't want to risk it. So that's going to be our final numbers here. Takeoff weight around 480 tons, which seems rather nice for me. Alright then, let's go ahead and load the aircraft up, and I am just going to load up the SimBrief data here, so that is looking good. Instant loading, and for the fuel we can make that 116.5 we said. Instant and load. Here we go. So that is looking all good. Then finally we can go ahead and grab our charts. So we're going to depart Munich. We need the taxi charts. And here we go. Taxi and apron stands east. And then for our standard instrument departure, let's quickly check the latest weather. And it is variable at 1. So let's also check the TAF to see if we can determine any runway in use. So Munich TAF 070 at 5. So it'll probably be a runway 08 right for our departure, I guess. Well, let's see, what's on the plan? 08 right as well, QD2 Echo departure. Alright, then that is what we are gonna take. So, QD2 Echo, here's the non-RNAV version of the SID. Come on. A little hard to pin this one. You can do it. Here we go. And then we also take the RNAV version of the SID. So that is going to be somewhere down here. I see QD2 Echo, RNAV. Perfect. Alright, so that's our... That is our EFB prepared. The last thing we can do is to go ahead and calculate our takeoff performance. And we're going to do that in SimBrief. So takeoff performance over here, we'll calculate slightly heavier. So let's take 480 tons. And config 2 takeoff, please. For the wind, let's go with a tailwind here. Say 260 at 5. Temperature is good. And we'll just leave the rest as it is. For the runway, we'll take a shortening over here by 200 meters. So that we can take all the intersections. Alright, calculate, and we are looking at 6 meters stop margin, limited at 510 tons, 52 degrees assumed, flaps 2, and our takeoff speeds 134, 147, 154. Alright, and that's it. Perfect. So, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and do our cockpit preparation. Now this is going to be a quick one. Let's make it a bit warmer than standard here. So refueling is complete. That means we can go ahead and turn our pumps on. Here we go, and the fire test has been done. Everything's set over here. Then let's move forward to the main panel, and looking at the weather, we've got a QNH of 1030. Set. The switching panel is looking good. Gravity extension guarded, and it is the 2nd of November 2024 this evening. Alright, then we can move down, and we don't really have to set anything over here. The squawk is 2000, and the main, or the pedestal is all set. Well, then let's go for our FMS setup. So we are in an A380-800 with the Trent engines installed. The database is current. Then let's go onto the init page, and we are going to do the company flight plan request. And this might take a little while because we have a fairly long route. So just give this a little while. It has to load all of this good stuff over here in. So while it's doing that, what we can do is to go to our destination airport charts and maybe start getting a sneak peek at what we might be expecting. So, general airport charts shows us that they have built a new runway recently, so make sure that you are running an up-to-date IROC. And we have two options available here, either runway 01 or runway 02 left or 02 right. If we have a look into the available approaches, we can see 01 has an ILS, 02 right has an ILS, but 02 left only has an RMP approach. So we are going to stick to either of the two runways that actually have an ILS available. Most likely I'm going to go for runway 02 right. So, well, why not prepare this already? ILS Zulu 02 right. And the arrival is going to be the Willa 1 Delta arrival for that one, which we can already go ahead and pin up here as well. Perfect. So, let's have a look at our FMS's progress. It says received company flight plan. Excellent. So we're going to hit insert, and we've got Lufthansa 772 Munich to Bangkok, alternate VTBU, cruising in 350, minus 54 degrees, tropopause and cost index are looking good. Let's have a look at the trip wind, which is going to be a tailwind of 36 knots on average, so that is going to be T36. Then IRSs are aligning on the GPS position. Now for departure, Munich 08 right, and we are departing via the QD to Echo departure, which we can include over here. And then for our arrivals, we will be landing on 02 right via the ILS approach. Here it is, ILS 02 right Zulu. Our star is going to be the Willa 1 Delta, and we don't need any transition over here. Okay, temporary flight plan and insert. Now let's go ahead and check that our routing is indeed correct. So QD to Echo, and I think the second one is the ANAF version of the chart. Yep, it is. So straight at Delta Mike 080, maximum 230 knots. So plan, constraints, and in here we go on the runway heading to 1900, and thereafter Delta Mike 080, 230 knots. And what do we have thereafter? Radke, maximum 250 knots, Maybach and Kirdi. So in here we have Radke, Maybach, Kirdi, and scrolling through this, that is looking pretty good. Alright, perfect. So we can keep this as it is. Right, then let's continue with our setup. So back to the performance initialization. Nav aids. Do we need anything manually tuned over here? I don't think so. So let's go back and load and fuel. So we're gonna do this off the flight plan at first, and that is a plan 0 fuel weight of 363.4. So we have 363.4. In the absence of knowing any CG yet, we'll enter 25. And the block fuel 116.5 goes in here. Taxi fuel is 1.3. Now let's go ahead and find the remainder of our figures. So alternate 4.6, final reserve 4.4. So 4.6 and 4.4. Here we go. So right now it tells us a negative extra fuel on board, but I think we are going to be just fine. So let's just keep it as it is for the time being. We have 116 tons on board, and looking into our flight plan, that is fitting for our sit. So I'm completely happy with that. Alright, well, the predictions here are probably based on the actual fuel usage, but the current version of the aircraft uses about 15 to 20% less, so I guess that's where the difference comes from. On a 10-hour flight, I would not be surprised to see such differences at all. Alright, then let's go for the takeoff performance, and as we have previously calculated, we are going at flaps 2 takeoff and 52 degrees assumed temperature. So flaps 2, flex, and we take 52 degrees. Takeoff shift is going to be 200 meters, and then packs on, anti-ice off, Reduction and acceleration can become 2,500 each, which equals 1,000 over the ground. The transition altitude is 5,000 feet, engine out acceleration is 3,000 above the ground, and now we can go for our takeoff speeds, which are 134, 147, 154. So 134, 147, and 154. Okay, all of those are inserted. Climb page, and we don't need to... We have no derated climb, and we don't need to pre-select anything down here. Transition altitude is checked, and I think with that we are good to go. Alright, perfect. So that concludes our FMS setup for the time being. Well then, up to the FCU, and up here we need a QNH, which is 1030. Setup as needed, flight director going on, initial climb I believe is flight level 70, but let's cross-check that on our departure chart. And indeed, initial climb clearance, flight level 70. Okay, very good. Then we just need to set up the other hand side, like that, and that's probably it already. Okay, wonderful. So that is our general flight deck setup completed over here. And if you have nothing extra, I'd say we just go for our briefing, shall we? Okay, so over to you, First Officer. Thank you. So we are going to depart of Munich, runway 08 right, and we can take any of the 3 intersections close to the full length. Our SID is going to be the KD2 Echo departure, climbing flight level 70. The MSA is 3,700 feet, and I do not have any extra fuel with me. Alright, that's just about perfect. So, I don't have any hotspots for the taxi routing. Planned stop margin is about 5 meters. Engine out sits straight ahead 25 miles, climbing altitude 4,000, which keeps us above the MSA. We can do an immediate re-landing if we need to. The runway is long enough, but we are above the maximum landing weight by almost 90 tons. So we'll read the overweight landing checklist if we have the time available, and only if we really have no time, we are going to come back for an immediate re-landing. I don't have anything special on non-standard. However, one thing that may be worth mentioning over here, if we have a look into the flight plan, we can see we have a 230 knot limit at Delta Mike 080. For some reason it tells me the green dot speed is 190. I don't quite believe that. Well, and the optimum at 390 seems a bit high to me as well. Is our performance entered correctly? 363.4, 116.5. Yep. It is entered correctly. Strange. Really strange. In any case, I do expect the speeds to be somewhat higher than what is presently indicated to us. So, no surprises there. Maybe if we enter the trim value, but we're not supposed to do that just yet in the flow. So, we'll just leave it like this for the time being, and we can update as necessary as we come along. Okay. Any questions on the briefing? No? Perfect. Alright, so cockpit preparation checklist, please. Gear pins and covers removed. Fuel quantity. We have 116,400 kilograms balanced. Barrel reference, QNH 1030. Okay, cockpit preparation checklist complete. So, I think we should be more or less good to go. Let's see if GSX is available over here. So, prepare position for pushback and departure. Let's see if anything is going to happen or not. In the meantime, the APU is powering the aircraft, so we can remove our ground power units. Ground from flight deck. Go ahead. So, please confirm all doors and hatches are getting closed, the ground equipment is removed, and the bypass pin is installed. Stand by, we are still removing the equipment. Roger. Liebe Gäste, einen schönen guten Abend aus dem Cockpit. Hier spricht Ihr Kapitän. Mein Name ist Emanuel und im Namen der deutschen Lufthansa darf ich Sie herzlich an Bord von Flug 772 nach Bangkok begrüßen. Mit mir im Cockpit heute einige sehr motivierte Kollegen, die Sie nach Bangkok fliegen werden. Die Flugzeit ist mit etwa 10 Stunden und 15 Minuten berechnet. Wir erwarten einige immer wieder leichte Turbulenzen während des Fluges und bitten Sie daher, angeschnallt zu bleiben, auch wenn die Anschnallzeichen ausgeschaltet sein sollten. Wir möchten uns an dieser Stelle ganz herzlich bedanken, dass Sie heute unsere Gäste sind. Lehnen Sie sich zurück und genießen Sie den Flug mit uns. Ladies and gentlemen, a very good evening from the flight deck. This is your captain speaking. My name is Emanuel, and in the name of Lufthansa, welcome aboard flight 772 towards Bangkok. The flight time today has been calculated at 10 hours and 15 minutes, and we expect a couple of bumps every now and then, so please keep your seatbelt fastened, even though the seatbelt sign might be switched off. We would like to thank you very much for being our guests once again. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the flight with us, and we will get back to you with the latest weather information when we start our approach to Bangkok. Thank you very much for your attention, and once again, welcome on board. Okay, so that's our passengers dealt with. Then let's go into our performance calculation, please. Okay, stand by for push. So, we have a zero fuel weight of 363.4 and a CG of 32.4. So, 3634, 32.4, 116.5, 480 passengers on board. Corsair DDR5, that is all looking good. Okay, wonderful. Well then. Our takeoff calculation remains unchanged, and we can keep the previous values. Though I don't necessarily trust the green dot speed over here, we'll prepare ourselves for the case that that changes en route. So, our THS value is going to be based on 40%. That is looking correct. And that's it. Any questions? No? Perfect. Well then, ground flight deck. Go. Okay, so we are fully ready up here, and please confirm you are ready for pushback. We're ready. Roger, stand by. Before start checklist. Park and brake. Set. Takeoff speeds and thrust. V1 134, VR 147, V2 154, flex 52. And before start checklist complete. So, ground flight. We are clear to push, facing south, park and brake set. Roger, facing south onto Echo 2, release park and brake please. Park and brake released, clear to push, and we are standing by for your clearance to start the engines. Roger, stand by. Okay, off block at 2124, and if I'm not totally mistaken, the schedule was at 25. Indeed, schedule at 25. Awesome. How unrealistic, an on-time Lufthansa flight. So, pushing back from over here onto Echo 2. So our taxi out is going to take us straight on Echo 2, Delta 4, Sierra 7, and then via Sierra all the way. Now Sierra 7 might still be closed by no temps. We'll have to see if the scenery has a construction site over there or not. Okay, flight at ground, you're clear to start your engines. Roger, starting 1, 2, 3, 4 in that sequence, and beginning with 1 and 2 now. Clear 1 and 2. Okay, engine 1 and 2 start. So, the pushback should be completed any moment now. Engine start is progressing normally, looking good. We would get an ECAM caution for anything else, honestly, so that's not really going to be much of our concern over here. Okay, we have 2 good starts. We're starting numbers 3 and 4. Engine 3 and 4 start. Pushback complete, set brakes. Brake set. So, please lower us down and prepare the airplane for taxi. Stand by for engine start. Engine start is progressing for numbers 3 and 4. That is going to take a little while now until it's finished. But we do have ignition already. The EGT is increasing. That is looking very good. They are removing the tug. Okay, we have 4 good engine starts. You're clear to disconnect. Prepare the airplane for taxi. I see you on the left-hand side with a pin, and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye. Okay, so down there is the ramp agent walking away. Looking good to me. After start checklist, please. So, anti-ice off. After start checklist complete. Flight control check. Full up. Full down. Neutral. Full left, full right, neutral, rudder, full left, full right, neutral. Okay, very good. And let's set those lights off. Clear on the right side, clear on the left side. Well, let's go ahead and do swing over here, and then we'll taxi straight towards Sierra 7. Brake check, pressure 0. So, large aircraft, takes a little while to get it moving. So, swinging over Whiskey 2, Sierra 7, and then all the way to the runway 08 right. Okay, we are still on the apron over here, so 15 knots should be our maximum speed. Let's reduce our thrust a little bit so that we do maintain that. And if we're already working on reducing something, let's also reduce the intensity of our main panel floodlights over here. This is looking much better if you ask me. Likewise, if we dim that nav display a bit, then the OANS is not gonna blind us as well. Alright, looking good. So, one Aegean over here. But he doesn't seem to be much of a concern for us. So, what is he doing? Entering the apron. Wonderful. And we will exit the apron over here. So, looks like the AI is landing on runway 08 as well. That's a good thing. Alright, so I don't have any changes to the takeoff briefing. Conditions are unchanged indeed. So, flight controls have already been checked. Okay, taxi checklist, please. Flight controls, checked. Flap setting, conf 2. Radar, on. Taxi checklist, complete. Okay, so this is quite a bit of distance that we gotta cover for now, so I'm gonna keep it right at 30 knots up here. In the present version here in the fly-by-wire, the speed is very easy to control by just manipulating the thrust slightly, so it's very easy just to maintain it at 30, which is the maximum that we're allowed to taxi at anyway. You can see very small changes in the thrust give us almost immediate results, so it's very easy to find that sweet spot. But then again, it is using quite a bit of fuel for the taxi thrust over here. You can see we've already burned the first 600 kilos. We're already at 115.9 and we started with 116.5. So, that's the Bravo 6 intersection to the left. In my favorite narrow body, I would have taken that one and lined up behind the arriving aircraft. In my favorite Super, however, we are definitely not gonna do that. So, as mentioned in the tutorial, we do try to minimize the number of brake applications. That means I did already go to idle thrust just now, so that the airplane can gradually start rolling out. And so that it can gradually start to reduce its speed without the need for any manual brake input. That way we conserve the most brake life from the aircraft. So, Bravo 4 over here. That means we're going to take the next one to the left. Not this one, but the one thereafter. There's one landing aircraft in front of us anyway, so there is no rush getting to the taxiways. Okay, so next left. And then behind the arriving aircraft, line up runway 08 right behind. So let's see, that taxiway should be far enough away from that light pole over here so that we don't clip our wings. And look at that, reaching 10 knots with only a very, very tiny brake application here. So that's the landing aircraft, and we will line up immediately behind him. Cabin crew, prepare for departure. Lineup checklist. Takeoff runway 08 right, Bravo 3. Cabin crew advised, packs 1 and 2 on.
Approaching 08 right.
And that's the lineup checklist completed. So the landing aircraft is vacating. That's what I call a good timing.
On runway 08 right.
And that is fully intentional. Are you ready? Take off. Manflex 52, SAS runway, auto thrust blue. Thrust set. Checked. 100 knots. Checked. V1. Rotate. Positive climb. Gear up. Nav. Checked. Just gotta say, this looks really wonderful with the A380 instrumentation down here, the lights out there, really beautiful. Okay, thrust climb, climb, auto thrust. Flaps 1, speed checked. Flaps 1. Looks like the 230 knots are not going to be a problem. Flap 0. Speed checked. So here's something that I want to try. We can see up here that the climb thrust limit is 83.9, but the engines actually give us 90 point something. What happens if I reduce this to 84 point a bit, as the airplane has calculated? Just want to see what kind of climb performance we're gonna get then, and whether it is going to be overly excessive again, or if that's any better. Of course, we get the lever climb flashing over here now. Set standard. Standard cross check, passing flight level 49 now. Checked. But I think this looks quite a bit better in terms of our climb rate. Alright, so let's climb to flight level 200 or so. And then autopilot 1. Okay, so acceleration flow pattern, flaps up, spoilers, disarmed, gear up, lights off, and that's the acceleration flow pattern complete. Okay, so looking at our numbers, with the reduced climb thrust, well, manually reduced now to match the thrust limit properly. 3,500 feet a minute. Well, it's still rather fast, but quite a bit better than the 5,000 or 6,000 that we used to have, right? If that comes at the cost of having the lever climb flashing over there, I'm happy to accept that. So, let's see, we're up in the air, estimated time of arrival 0230. That's quite fine. Sorry, 0830 of course. So, 250 knot restriction over at Radke, which is fine, and then passing 10,000. We'll keep the seatbelts on, since our pitch is still somewhat high. Nothing manually tuned. Easy going. So, let's go onto the terrain mode here, since there is a little bit of terrain in the area, which we don't want to fly into. And then let's see that ATC has relieved us of the speed restriction. So let's go ahead and start accelerating here. I think the managed speed target is 290. Yeah, 290 down there. So then we can do selected 290 and see what happens. I want to see the final pitch value before I decide on the fasten seatbelt sign. But I think overall this is looking pretty good with the manually reduced thrust. Just gotta remember that once we reach our cruising altitude, we gotta put the levers back into the climb notch. Otherwise, we might accidentally restrict ourselves in a way that we probably don't want to. Okay, just about 7.5 degrees of pitch. That's fine for me. Seatbelts auto. So, what do we have up here? Mädel and thereafter Stein. Yeah, Stein is a good waypoint. Let's go direct Stein. So, direct to Stein, insert. Optimum 365, maximum 385, plan 350. Well, something tells me we are gonna go 370 right away. And there is something else I want to try. If we just go ahead and fly a little bit faster, let's say 320. I want to see what rate of climb we're going to get then. Okay, so we have 320 now. Let's see. Climb thrust is supposed to be 89.6. So something like this. And this gives us 3,500 feet a minute at a pitch of about 6 degrees. That is not too bad if you ask me. Alright, well, let's go Throttle 370 then. And then I'd say we are gonna fly that aircraft up to cruising altitude. And once we reach the cruising altitude, we are going to do our basic checks over here. And thereafter, we can speed this up a little bit. For the time being though, I will keep my eye peeled on the climb thrust over here and will adjust our thrust manually to be more or less what is indicated on the limit at the top over here. And well, then let's see how long it's going to take us to reach our cruising altitude. If we have a look into our flight plan, if that gives us any sort of an idea, we can see down here it should take us about 21 minutes to reach the top of climb. Alright, well, we'll let it fly and see what is going to happen. So I am going to speed this one up a little bit until we reach the top of climb, and then we are going to do our cruise checks. And we are reaching our cruising altitude. We have alt cruise and are up in flight level 370. Now, first things first, let's make sure that our thrust levers are returned into the climb notch over here so that we have full thrust available in the cruise as we need it. Next up, let's return the aircraft to the managed mode so that it can take care of the speed by itself. Now, we took about 22 minutes to get up here, and if we have a look into the flight plan, we can see the flight plan has us in flight level 350 at 21 minutes. In other words, we climbed 2,000 feet higher, and we took a minute longer. Now, this means we probably still climbed a little bit faster than we should have. However, I think you will agree that the aircraft has a much more realistic time to the cruising altitude if we run if we limit the thrust manually rather than have the system do it automatically. So, up here we are supposed to have 103.5 tons of fuel, and we have 108 tons of fuel, so we did indeed save quite a bit. Now, let's do the next fuel check over at Stein, where we are supposed to have 102.4. We can already use a little bit of a look ahead if we go into the flight plan over here and then EFOP and winds. At Stein we are predicted to have 107.4. Looks quite good, and now the FMS is already predicting us to arrive with 9.9 tons of fuel. And if we compare that with our performance, or actually with our fuel and load page, then we'll remember the minimum is 9,000. So we already know that we are going to arrive with some extra fuel on board our aircraft. Okay, so let's quickly check all our ecam pages to make sure that there is nothing abnormal indicating anywhere over here. So here is something abnormal for you. The APU TR shows in amber, and that tells me that there is something wrong. Now, since I'm not A380 type rated, I don't know exactly what it is, but this would be something where you could definitely write an ACAS message to your maintenance now and ask them for advice, and then they will decide on what they are going to do, if anything. Alright, next up onto the surveillance page, TCAS going into the below mode, as any traffic that's of interest for us is going to be below us now. Well, and that finishes pretty much anything we had to do for the time being. So let's go ahead and turn on some of those cockpit lights over here. And with that now done, I'd say we can take a moment to relax now. Quick check, Stein, 28 minutes in the air, 102.4, and we will reach Stein at 22:05, so in about a minute, so we're running a minute early, but remember we flew quite a bit faster during the climb as well, so that does make sense. In terms of the fuel, we have saved around 5 tons, which is of course not 100% realistic, but let's see how that is going to develop as we continue our flight. For a reason that is somewhat beyond me, it's already telling me the optimum flight level is 390 and wants us to go up. That seems a little bit early to me, so I am just going to keep it down in 370 over here. If we look through the flight plan, we can see that the climb to flight level 390 is only planned 7 hours into the flight, and I think that sounds reasonable, so we'll just stay down here for the time, and once we are approaching Uksupo, we are actually going to commence our step climb. Alright, so that's it with everything we could do for the time being. So for now, I'd say sit back, relax, and enjoy the flight, and if anything interesting happens, then I will get back to you. But for the time being, simply enjoy the marvelous views on board our A380. With a bit of luck, we are going to see a little bit of the area that we're flying through. But for the time being, simply sit back, relax, and enjoy the flight with us. Good morning everyone, I hope you got yourself some good night's rest as we've been flying along. Sure enough, the A380 is one of those super quiet and comfortable aircraft. Now, we've already made it all the way close to 100 miles to our top of descent, so we can start to work on our approach preparation yet. Now let's go ahead and have a look at some of the weather information, and looking over at Bangkok, you can see the winds are northeasterly, slightly variable, 10 kilometers, few clouds, 3000, 32 degrees, QNH 1009. Suppose we're gonna go ahead and start pre-selecting that QNH, and then we can start working ourselves into our approach preparation. So let's start right down here on the FMS, and we are going to start by having a look into our standard arrival route. 02 right is planned at the moment, or at least that is what we have on our FMS. Let's go ahead and have a look into the overall taxi charts for Bangkok. Likewise, check if there is anything A380 specific for us, which might very well be the case, but at least I can't seem to find anything here just yet. Okay, that's fine. Then we are just going to go ahead with our standards. So, East apron, no. Main apron. That looks more like it. Alright, we'll take the general airport chart itself as well. And that's it. Perfect. So our arrival is going to be the Villa 1 Delta arrival, which we can go ahead and pin over here. Come on. Still a little bit fuzzy to pin everything. And then we'll take the ILS Zulu approach to runway 02, like that. Okay. So let's go over to the pin charts and we'll take it straight from here. So full screen please. So we are coming in via Eigene towards Villa, max 280 below flight level 220. Let's go ahead and start having a look. And that's it. Villa below 220, 280 knots. Okay, continue NIMAC, ISTAX, Lavat above level 160, and then bullshit 421, maximum 250 knots. And that's what we have over here, and then we continue via the RNAV points above 11,000, max 220 between 7 and 9,000, and on to Bogas above 4,000. Let's go ahead and have a look. And that seems quite good to me. Okay, so we're going to start the approach from Losto, and that's going to be on the ILS chart. Here we go, ILS 2 right. And then, starting out in Losto, 3,500, 3-degree glide slope, and the BS 680 waypoint in 1600. Okay, so we got Losto, 3,500, 3-degree glide, BS 680 in 1600. Yep, that looks round about right. Alright, for our missed approach, I see a lot of RNAV waypoints. So departure end of runway, left turn, waypoint 302, 3, 4, 5, 6. At least they have proper names to it. Makes it easy to track and remember. And that looks pretty good indeed. So, climb to 4,000, and if we check the procedural description, we go to 4,000. Perfect. Speed control, cross BS 680 between 150 and 160, cross Losto at 180. We will do that. Well, and that's it. Okay, so our routing is looking good. Then let's go into the performance, please. We can stick to our standard speeds over here. For the approach page, let's see what our latest weather is again. 050 at 8. So, temperature is 32 and the QNH 1009. Alright, that is looking good. So, back to the charts. And minimum is going to be 370. Easy going. Okay, we'll keep the config full as it is rather hot and I don't want to fry our brakes. And for the rest of it, that's all looking good. Okay, go around 1500 for reduction and acceleration is looking good, and then we need the MSA 1800 and then 3900, but yeah, we've got a long time till we go there. I'd say we use 1800 here so that we can accelerate properly. Okay, here we go. So that's our FMS check. Then let's go into the OANS and set up our brake to vacate. Now that's not the right airport. So airport select, Bangkok, display. Large airport, needs a little while to load. But here we go. Okay, we're landing on 02 right over here. Let's select that. And that's our wet stopping performance. So we are going to vacate over here via Echo 7. And that looks good to me. Alright. BTV is armed. And I think with that we have basically covered everything. Well then, let's go for the approach briefing, please. Alright, thank you. So it is the Willa 1 Delta arrival for an ILS approach onto runway 02 right, MSA 1800. The highest is very close to the end of the missed approach, 3900. So in 4000 all around we are going to be safe. Now, what are we going to do? Well, we will fly the ILS approach, surprise, and that is down to a minimum of 370 feet, the go-around via a couple of RNAV waypoints, climbing 4000 feet. Do you have anything to add? Nope. Perfect. Then let's go right back over. Okay, so we are going to fly the approach manually with the flight directors on, manual thrust as well. And we are going to do a config full landing using BTV to vacate via via Echo 7. And maximum reverse due to the temperatures, as we want to keep the turnaround time to a minimum. Well, stop margin is more than plenty, and we are going to vacate the runway to the right hand side via Echo 7. I don't have anything special or non-standard, do you? Nope? Perfect. So that's our briefing completed if you don't have any threats. I don't see any over here. Alright, then let's say bye-bye to our guests. Ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning from the flight deck. This is your captain speaking. We will start our descent towards Bangkok in the next 5 minutes with a remaining flight time of approximately 35 minutes. The weather in Bangkok very nice, the temperature is 32 degrees Celsius and just a few clouds at the sky. We'd like to thank you very much for choosing Lufthansa for today's flight. Hope you have enjoyed it, and we look forward to welcoming you again on board of a future service. Thank you very much for flying our flagship Airbus A380 product, and we hope to see you again soon. Liebe Gäste aus dem Cockpit, Ihr Kapitän, wir werden in Kürze den Sinkflug in Richtung Bangkok beginnen mit einer Flugzeit von noch circa einer halben Stunde. Das Wetter in Bangkok aktuell sehr schön, 32 Grad und einige vereinzelte Bewölkungen. Wir bedanken uns ganz herzlich, dass Sie heute Lufthansa geflogen sind und hoffen, dass Sie Ihren Aufenthalt an Bord unseres Flaggschiffs A380 genossen haben. Wir wünschen Ihnen einen schönen Aufenthalt und gegebenenfalls eine gute und sichere Weiterreise und hoffen nun, Sie bald wieder an Bord eines unserer Flugzeuge begrüßen zu dürfen. Vielen Dank für Ihre Aufmerksamkeit. Okay, so that is our passengers dealt with. Well, then I'd say the top of descent is about, let's see, 15 miles out. Well, a tiny bit early to start the descent, but we're almost there. Okay, very good. So, then I tend to say we can speed this up until we are a little bit further below, where things are going to get interesting again. So, we're reaching 10,000 feet. Lights on, signs on, and our EFIS control panel is already set. LS selected. Here we go. Okay. So, we can already descend to an altitude of 4,000 feet, and then we are going to do the approach checklist, please. On a small little point over here, you might have noticed a little transition in the video. That was unfortunately necessary, because my lovely processor decided it is a good moment to call this a crash to desktop. So let's just go ahead and click away all those checklists again. I did try my best to cut it together into the best possible version again, so we just got to get rid of those, and then we can start with the approach checklist, please. Okay, barrel reference, QNH 1009, minimum barrel 370, and auto brake BTV, approach checklist completed. Okay, let's do a little bit of mathematics here. We are in about 8,000, that means we need 24 miles plus 2 from the speed, so 26 miles to lose our altitude. And we have about 10 to get here, 5 to get over. That means we will need a tiny bit of speed brake over here. So let's bring the speed brake about half out. And then let's go into open descent here so that we can start going a little bit below that managed profile, which does assume that we'll fly all the way up to Bogas and then to the final. Indeed, we'll probably turn final just to beam Bravo Sierra 418. Now remember those speed restrictions we've briefed earlier? Initially we are looking at a speed of 180 knots as we overfly the final approach phase. The turn itself should be sufficient for the speed reduction, so we'll just make sure that we get it down now and then start our final turn soon thereafter. So that TCAS target here is about 10 miles from the 418 point. We're about 5 miles out, so he can come in behind us without many problems. Alright, descending 3,500 then, which is going to be the altitude at which we are going to intercept the final. And that is all looking good so far. Alright, so we have India Sierra Whiskey Sierra, and that is confirmed. So the ILS is already identified. And in 2 miles we can start our left-hand turn. Let's go ahead and pre-select that. 190 is our current heading. That means the base turn is going to be on a heading of 110. Well, make that 100 for me. Here we go. Okay, activate approach phase. And confirm. Flaps 1. Speed checked. Speed brakes going in as we are approaching the glide slope over here. Okay, heading 100. Pull heading. Heading. So then let's enter a direct towards Losto so that our flight plan gets sequenced. But return to that heading 100, please. It's too bad that radial indirects are not supported just yet. I hope those are going to be added soon. Okay, tell you what, let's make it heading 110 so that we have a little bit of a final before we overfly the final approach phase. Okay, speed 180 as required. Short level segment here in 3,500, that is fine. And then once we are 2 miles from the center line, we can start our final turn. Speed alt star. Alright, turn left 050, cleared ILS approach Zulu 02 right. Catherine Dual Autopilot 1 and 2, glide slope localizer blue. Alright, so let's go ahead and have a little bit of fun. Manual flight. Okay, heading 040 is good. That leads us straight to the final approach phase. And from here we can intercept the ILS. 180 knots is also good, and then they want between 150 and 160 to the Bravo Sierra 680 point. So, localizer star, glide slope star. Go around altitude 4000 set. And that's our runway in sight. Okay, flaps 2. Speed checked. Flaps 2. Lock. And of course the other airplane is racing in behind us, but we're just gonna ignore that. If he wants to fly into the wake turbulence of an A380, good luck.
$2,500.
Checked. Gear down. Flap 3. Speed checked. Flap 3. Flaps full. Speed checked. Flaps full. Landing checklist. Eco memo. Landing no blue. Landing checklist complete. Alright, roughly 50% N1, or 50% thrust I should say. Well, more or less the same. Should work rather well. And indeed this is looking pretty good. So, 0 control inputs at the moment. Well, just a very tiny one to avoid getting underneath the glide. And as you can see, the airplane flies perfectly.
$1,000.
Checked. Okay, stable through the gate. BTV is showing in blue on the FMA.
Approaching 0, 2, right.
Intentionally. Oh, small stutter there.
100 above.
Checked.
400. Minimum.
Continue. Land. So, don't chase the glide slope now. That would be a guaranteed hard landing.
50, 40, 30, 20, 10, 5.
Here we go. That's looking good. Okay, spoilers, reverse green, BTV. $70 knots. Manual brakes.
Auto brake off.
And with that, welcome to Bangkok. That's about as easy as it gets. So, vacating that runway, and then we go off to the right hand side. Well, actually we go straight ahead into the gates, so just gotta find the right moment here to run the after landing checks, but first of all we gotta get the airplane off the runway. I guess we'll do them while we're taxiing on here. Alright, I tend to say that was a good landing. A little bit floaty towards the end, but perfectly within the scope of our performance predictions. So the flaps will stay in 1 since it's above 30 degrees. APU is coming on, anti-ice off, and weather radar is already deselected. Perfect. Okay, there is no after landing checklist on the A380, so we don't need to worry about that. And we're going to park to the right of the Qantas over there. Actually, we can just go over here as well. So we'll park to the left of the Qantas. I think the Qantas is exactly on the gate that the real flight took, so we gotta live with that. But it's lovely to see how many A380 gates they have in here. That really makes our life a lot easier. So, I believe the scheduled on-block time was around 08 something, so we are going rather well, are we? 07:55. Yep, so we're perfectly on time. Now that's German precision here. Completely different from what I'm used to from Lufthansa. Okay, looks like the guidance system is inoperative. That's fine. GSX has some problems with the A380 for now, so I'm not gonna bother. Okay, so we'll just taxi all the way forward to the forwardmost stop, and that should be fine. So that's somewhere over here, I believe. Right, let's bring it to stop. Okay, APU bleed available. 4, 3, 2, 1. Cabin crew, all doors in park. So, engines are running down. Beacon off. Doors are disarmed. Seatbelts off. And now comes the hard task. Well, number 1. We'll put the external power unit on, and now come the fuel pumps. Alright, that's looking good. Then, parking checklist please. Okay, parking record trucks, brake set, and wing light off, parking checklist complete. Alright everyone, that's it. Welcome to Bangkok. I do hope you are all going to enjoy your holidays, and then I'm looking forward to see you all on the return flight in the hopefully not too distant future. Thank you so much for watching. As always, be sure to like, comment and subscribe, and if you really love what I'm doing on this channel, I would appreciate a small donation through the Buy Me Coffee link in the video description below. In the meantime though, thank you very much for watching, and I see you all again on the next one.